FutureDDS community, future dentists out there. Hi, my name is Isaac Tade. I'm a first-year dental student at the University of Minnesota School of Dentistry in Minneapolis. A little bit about myself. I was born in Cameroon and I went to high school in Minnesota. Then I went to undergrad at Augsburg University in Minneapolis. At Augsburg, I was a biology major, religion minor. I ran track and cross country for a little bit. I was involved in my pre-dental club and I did 4 years of choir at college too. So I had a lot of different interests and those helped me, I think, get into dental school. Fun fact about me is that I really enjoy traveling and trying new foods. So now I'll be answering some questions that hopefully will help you prepare as you venture on your road to dental school. For me, it was never a situation where I knew I always wanted to do it. I had a lot of different interests growing up, like I said, in art and music in particular. I did a lot of drawing and painting, and then I played piano and taught myself guitar as well. So I always thought I would go down that creative art path. However, I realized at some point that I didn't want to make my hobbies my career. And so I took an anatomy course in high school, and after that I realized I was really interested in science, and I started shadowing in healthcare professions. I shadowed a physician and a nurse practitioner and nurses and PAs. And after shadowing those professions, although I have a lot of respect for them, I realized that they weren't for me. They seemed less hands-on than something I wanted in a career. There's a lot of paperwork, prescriptions, and sometimes there was minimal patient interactions. So after that, I shadowed a dentist, and the first thing I saw was a chipped tooth restoration. And when I saw that, I realized that dentistry is a combination of art, science, and interpersonal skills. There's dexterity involved in your manual hand skills, and there's an artistry involved when you restore a tooth and make it look beautiful. And of course, you're using science to do that as well. So, and then of course, there's an personal trust, right? There's this intimate connection between you and the person who you are operating on, and you get to see the fruits of your labor instantly. You are seeing the rewards, or the impact that you're making on a patient, and that is rewarding. So all of those elements just kind of fit together in one very complete piece for me when I started shadowing dentists, and I kept doing it and kept looking into dentistry and took it seriously, and it just made sense for me. And don't mind me, I'm going to be looking over here. I have a document because I don't want to miss anything for you guys. So the first thing in terms of studying for the DAT is know that it's an expensive process. Applying to dental school is an expensive process. For me, when I took the DAT a few years ago, I think it was 2018 or 2019, just registering for the exam was around $475, and then on top of that you're buying study materials as well. So I bought DAT Destroyer, DAT Bootcamp, and Chad's videos, and all in all that was around $1,000. So it's an expensive process. Keep that in mind and save up if you can. The main source that I used was DAT Bootcamp. It has everything you need. It has all the subjects. In addition to that, it has practice tests, which I would recommend taking throughout your studying time because they're going to be extremely similar to the real thing. The type of questions asked and the format of the questions are going to be almost identical to the real test. So I recommend DAT Bootcamp. Of course, I'm not endorsed by them, or this isn't any kind of paid advertising or anything like that. Take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but it was just what worked for me and for the people that I know as well. I didn't really use my other study resources, to be honest. In terms of my study plan, I began in January actually with the perceptual ability portion. So the perceptual ability, it's really about getting your eyes used to seeing angles and shapes and all of these patterns. And so the way that I went into it is that I was going to take my test in August. So I started in January with this DAT Bootcamp mobile app. And basically I used that to play perceptual ability as if it were a game. So anytime I had free time, that's what I was doing, trying to stay off Instagram. I was doing the perceptual ability just to get my eyes trained for it. So then when I actually started studying the material in June, I had a good understanding of that section already. So in June, I began studying for the DAT about 6 times a week, and I was actually doing undergrad part-time research at that time as well. So for any of you out there who are struggling, maybe thinking, how am I going to, study for this and have a part-time job or whatever it might be, just know that it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you can definitely do it. I balanced research and studying for the DAT throughout that summer. So it's about a 10-week studying program between June and August when I took the test. In terms of studying programs, actually, DAT Bootcamp also has a 10-week guide for you, so that's a great place to start and start scheduling out how you're going to study for this test. So in terms of scheduling and staying organized, I think organization is really the key for that. A lot of different things, but especially in, as you're getting started studying, I think it's really important to set your test date early. If you set your test date and then start studying, you will have so much more motivation to be done by a certain date than if you start studying with a kind of ambiguous test date. So that would be a tip that I would give, and have a plan, know when you're going to study, what material you're going to use ahead of time, do your research, and then when you're going to study as well. Know what type of learner you are. So for me, I'm very visual, and it helped to be in a library and have a whiteboard and an expo marker and write everything out and draw pictures. So that helped me, and I'm just a visual person. So it helps to know what type of studier you are. I would also say it helps to have a study buddy. You're going to be pretty disciplined, or you're going to try to be disciplined. There's going to be distractions. For me, I took the test in the summer, so all of my friends were out having fun and enjoying the weather and whatever else, but I had to stay disciplined and in that library, like I was saying. So it helps to have a study buddy if you can get one. And then also Facebook has a DAT Bootcamp page as well, so everyone else taking the DAT at the same time is on there sharing information. I think there's also study group chats and things like that you can get involved in. So it just helps to have some accountability. Throughout studying, I would say a big tip is that failures are learning moments. I cannot reiterate this enough. Take the time to go over the questions that you got wrong in your practice tests, and just know that a bad day for your ego is a good day for your soul, and for your growth, because you should take those failures not necessarily as, indicators of your personality or anything like that, or how well you're going to do on the actual test. It's just a moment for you to grow and to reflect on some of the things that you need work on. So there's going to be ups and downs. Just learn from some of your mistakes. And then I would also say know the DAT score that you are aiming for. Know the DAT ranges for the schools that you're going to be applying for, and aim for something in that range. Range, and I say range instead of average because I think schools are moving more towards ranges instead of averages these days. So yeah, let me see here if there's anything else. Before I close off on DAT, here's one really important tip. Visit the testing center the day before the exam. there's going to be a lot of nerves. You've been studying for so long, and it's a very important test in your career. I would highly recommend visiting the testing center, walking through where you're going to go, where the bathroom is, what your break is going to be like, before you actually go there and take the test for real, because you're just going to make yourself much more comfortable in the space. So first of all, I have to say it definitely wasn't my metrics. It wasn't my DAT or GPA score. I had very average metrics in those senses. I would say definitely that it was my experience. So schools these days, and this is something I applaud them for, are looking for holistic applicants to professional programs, dental school included. They want to know that you are a human being apart from, your test scores and what you can do in a classroom. So I would say my experiences, first of all, were something that set me apart. As in college, I was involved in a lot of different things. Like I said before, I was in my pre-dental club, and I actually did a couple pre-dental programs as well. Shout out SHPEP, that's Summer Health Professions Educational Program. I did my SHPEP 6-week summer experience at Columbia University after my freshman year of college. And then I also did a U of M, University of Minnesota pre-dental club program as well. So I would recommend, if you have a state school or there's a school in your area, look at what summer programs they have available for you and attend those, because they're going to be very important in terms of you understanding what dental school is like, and then also you making connections with the people who are already there. And those are initiatives that you're taking that are going to shine on your application. And of course, just having the connections is always going to be beneficial for you as you're trying to get into this career. So I would say definitely do a pre-dental program if you can. Another thing is I was involved in choir and residence life. And so with those things, they just want to see that you're committed. Can you be a trustworthy person in your work? Can you show leadership skills in whatever it is that you take up? And are you a curious person? Are you trying to learn? Are you doing study abroad? Or what type of activities are you doing apart from the classroom? I guess is just like the biggest point. And the thing is here, that you don't have to do everything. I know I'm just kind of spitting a lot at you right now, but the thing is you really don't have to do everything, but it's always going to be in your favor to do something. I think the best students are those that have side hobbies, and they have something that they can turn to apart from school when it gets tough. Something that keeps them grounded, and something that is interesting for them and makes life more rich. So don't do everything, but do something. Find something that you like, be a leader, be passionate, and I think you're going to have a fantastic application for dental school. So I applied one of the earliest days possible in June, and then I actually got an invitation to interview at the University of Minnesota in September. And I had a month between then and when my interview was in October. So in that time, I think it's really important that you practice, right? Practice for your interview, right? Practice for perfection. And so run through practice questions that might appear, in your interview with a pre-health advisor, or if you have someone who's already in dental school, current dental students, email them and ask what their interview was like, what type of questions they would be asking you, stuff like that, just so that you have a sense of what you're getting into on your interview day. I practiced twice. I wore my suit and tie both times that I kind of rehearsed just to simulate the experience, and I think that helped me a lot when it came to my actual interview. So in terms of the interview itself, it was in October of 2020, and so we had Zoom interviews actually. We arrived in the Zoom room, I think around 8 a.m., and we were welcomed by one of the faculty members at the school, and they did a really great job of easing everyone's nerves because they were friendly, or cracking jokes early in the morning, making sure everyone knew each other and was communicating in the Zoom room. I know it can be awkward sometimes, but they did a really great job of making sure that people felt welcome. They kept reiterating how they wanted us to be a part of the U of M community and family. So I just thought that was a very welcoming experience and a very welcoming way to get right into the interview. After that, we had an information session about finances and paying for dental school, and then we had a session where they gave us a virtual tour of the school as well. So just kind of giving us, and in addition to that, just like different clubs and organizations, involvement opportunities at the school, and research as well. So they gave us a holistic view of what the school was like. After that, we went into breakout rooms. So for our interviews, the U of M has a closed application interview system. So that basically means that the faculty members who are asking you questions during your interview have not looked at your application. They don't know what is in there, and they're going to be asking everyone the same questions. A lot of the questions were very behavioral based. What would you do in this type of situation? Other questions were based on your experiences. So tell me about a time when you had to face adversity, or you overcame an issue, or you had to whatever it might be. So those are the types of questions that I can remember were on my interview, and honestly it was a very conversational experience. I loved how relaxed it was. They told me that we were just going to have a conversation. It was supposed to be an hour long, but we finished in I think 40 minutes and spent the rest of the time just talking. So it was just a very Minnesota nice type of experience, I suppose, and after that I left with a really great feeling about how it went. And part of the reason I chose the University of Minnesota is that because I felt the faculty members were really nice and understanding, and I had a great experience in my interview, honestly. So that's a little bit about the interview day from my perspective. Okay, so I've already talked about my interview day a little bit, but I'd also like to give you some tips about your application and about the interview process in general. So first of all, in terms of your application, I would say one of my biggest tips is start writing your personal statement early. For me, it took a long time to construct and perfect exactly what I wanted to say, what I wanted to convey to the application committee, what I wanted them to know about myself, and why I wanted to go into this career. Your personal statement is, it's personal, and it's one of the most important pieces of writing on your application. So make sure you spend plenty of time on it. Make sure that you have people read it over as well. If you have a pre-health advisor, let them look at it and help you along in that process. Another piece of information I would give is apply early, if you can. And I put an emphasis on if you can, because you shouldn't just hit submit on your application the first day possible because you want to get in early. You want to make sure that everything is up to par and everything is just really well done. This is your chance at applying into your dream school, into the career that you have wanted and worked for so long. So make sure, take the time to make sure that your application is exactly what you want it to be before hitting submit. That includes things like spelling errors, any excessive documents, things like that, before you hit submit on your application. And then my other tip would be that, you should really know your application. When you go into your interview, you might have an interview where they have an open application interview system, and they're going to ask you specific questions about your experience doing this or that, or your job here, or your leadership in this opportunity, whatever it might be. And you'll have to speak on those experiences. So when you're going into your interview, know your application front to back. And that'll just be a really comfortable experience for you if you can speak on your experiences further than what you've put in your application. I actually only applied to 4 schools, and that was for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I was pretty sure that I wanted to attend the University of Minnesota anyways. Like I said, I did a pre-dental program at the University of Minnesota. I made some connections here. Minnesota is home to me. I went to undergrad in the city of Minneapolis, and so I just wanted to keep that constant in my life at the time. So I only applied to 4 schools knowing that the University of Minnesota was my top choice. And in addition to that, I've said this before, but the application process is mad spendy. It's so expensive. Like I said, just studying for the DAT, I think I spent around $1,000. For my application for schools was over $1,000. They hit you with secondary application fees as well, in addition to your primary application fees that you have to pay. And then you've got transcripts you've got to order and everything. So I come from a socioeconomic background where just attending college wouldn't have been affordable without scholarships and grants. And so going into grad school and applying to these schools, it just would have been impossible for me to apply to 10 schools or something like that. So that was another factor. In terms of money also, in-state tuition, as a Minnesota resident, I got in-state tuition. So the University of Minnesota was one of my most affordable options. But in terms of the school itself, I really like that the university has a commitment to underserved communities. So what that looks like is in our 3rd and 4th year, we do clinical rotations in rural areas where people have less access to dental care. Their dental health profession shortage areas. In addition to the rural communities, there's also community clinics around the Twin Cities area that dental students also work in. And we take classes that emphasize public health. So all of these like social factors that contribute to dental care and access are things that I'm passionate about, and that the school really values as well. So that was something that I appreciated about the university. In addition to that, we really emphasize interprofessional collaboration here at the school. We have dental students we take classes with dental therapy and dental hygiene students as well. So not all of our classes, but some of them overlap. And so, it emphasizes, that you are a part of a team, and you're going to be in a dental team when you're working in practice. And so just getting used to working with other professionals, I think is a really essential part of future practice, current practice, and I appreciate that the university is innovative in that way. We're the first university in the United States to have a dental therapy program. So in addition to those things, the U has a lot of research opportunities. It's a world-renowned research institution, and that's not necessarily my thing, but for other people in my class, that was really a drawing factor for them to attend this school because of the world-renowned research that does get done at the University of Minnesota. In addition to that, there's also a lot of opportunities to be involved in the community, to be involved at school. We have 2 dental fraternities which host events and things like that all the time. So it's just it's a fun atmosphere. There's a lot of ways to be involved, and I call it home. So those are some of the main reasons that I chose the University of Minnesota. So first and foremost, I did not take a gap year. I went straight from college into dental school. And at some point, yes, I definitely did want to take a gap year, but with the pandemic, it just wasn't going to be possible for me. So I decided to go straight in. And that contributed, I think, to some burnout. I'm not going to lie. I worked really hard in undergrad. I made a lot of sacrifices. I hustled. And I wanted a little bit of a break. But in those moments where I felt burnout or I questioned, my decision to go directly into dental school instead of doing something else, or I was just exhausted for whatever reason, I had to remind myself why I was here. And so I think that's a really important piece of just your mental health, and a part of this career is reminding yourself why you started it, because there's going to be moments that are difficult. Absolutely. For me, one of the reasons I got into dentistry is because I want to be a person of access. I want to provide in underserved communities. I had a family friend who died of a dental abscess. So when I learned that, someone can actually just die from having a cavity, I thought that was, ridiculous and unfair. And I thought that, if I can prevent that from happening, I should do that. And so in those moments, I needed to remind myself of that family friend. So, and what his life stood for. And I suggest that, everyone have a motivation, everyone have a why, that you can remind yourself of when things get difficult. So yes, I did experience some burnout in my transition into dental school, but the University of Minnesota does an excellent job of easing you into your coursework. So at first, you take lighter courses such as like dental public health and dental professional development before you start taking some of your more intense classes such as gross anatomy, cadaver lab, and oral anatomy as well in your first semester. So in all of that, I would also say, just like appreciate the people around you. Transitioning into school is a lot of fun. You're meeting some of the smartest people you've ever met in your life. You all have the same common interest. Obviously, you're going through the process together. You're going to be together for the next 4 years. So make friends in that time that you have, because they're going to be some of your friends for life, honestly. I've appreciated my transition into dental school. It's been difficult at times, but I remind myself why I'm here, what the end goal is, and I surround myself with a support system as well in my friends and family that help me get through some of those days that can be a little bit more difficult. If it were easy, everyone would do it. I hate to be cliche, but it's absolutely true. So that's a little bit of what it's like, a little bit about what it's like to start school at the University of Minnesota. In your first semester of dental school at Minnesota, you're basically taking classes from 8 to 4. And this is just kind of what an everyday, a day in the life looks like. Like I said, you're taking a lot of foundational science courses, so like your biochemistry, your histology, stuff like that. In addition, you've got your gross anatomy and gross anatomy lab, and then you have oral anatomy as well, which is one of my favorite classes. Oral anatomy is essentially studying teeth as if they weren't connected to the body. You're learning the unique features of all the teeth in the human dentition, and then you go up into the lab and you wax teeth. So you melt wax down and you shape them into the shape of teeth, and that's what you do to work on your dexterity and to test your knowledge of the anatomy. I also really appreciated the Intro to Clinics rotation that we had every Friday, almost every Friday in my first semester. I didn't have any experience with dental assisting, or working in a dental clinic actually before I came to dental school. So my Intro to Clinics rotation, where I actually got to assist upperclassmen dental students in our clinics, was really informative for me to get a feel and a sense of what it's like to actually practice in a dental setting. All right, so I'm currently in my second semester, and if you've heard the phrase that, dental school or med school is like trying to drink from a fire hydrant, that's this semester. So again, we're taking, very foundational science courses, things like radiology, periodontics, neuroscience, biomaterials, things like that. We're also taking more specific dentistry courses, so like occlusion, which is basically how your teeth fit together, in periodontics, like I mentioned, and then operative as well. So operative is where you are preparing cavities and doing fillings, and so that's one of my favorite courses as well. We're working again in the lab and getting our hand skills down, doing the things that dentists do every day in practice. So it finally feels good to be in that moment and working as if I were a dentist, so to speak, on my mannequin. Apart from courses, I like to have some fun too. So I'm on an intramural soccer team, so we play on like Fridays and Sunday nights. And apart from that, I also try to attend Christian Medical Dental Association Bible study meetings on Monday afternoons. So there's a lot of different things that you can do at the university to stay involved. Those are just a couple of my things that I do, but I would highly suggest just getting out there, finding a community and trying something maybe new or doing something that you've always done, because there's so many different options at this school. Okay, as I close out this video, I would love to give you some final pieces of advice that, I wish I had when I was in your shoes as a pre-dental student. And the first piece of advice is know what refills your batteries. I talked about this a little bit before, but really just know what refills your batteries. This is going to be a long process. You are going to school for 8 years, at least 4 years of undergrad and dental school. So there's going to be challenges along every step of the way. It might be at first, the hardest thing you've ever done is take that chemistry course. That's what it was like for me. And then the next hardest thing is maybe the DAT, and then your application, and then you're in school and you're taking board exams, and all of a sudden you have to get your licensing exam taken care of too, and you're practicing dentistry, and that's going to come with ups and downs as well. So what is your motivation to do dentistry? Where do you draw your strength? Is it from an activity that you do? Do you lift weights? Do you have a faith community? What is your why? I would say, ask yourself, what is it that refills your batteries when you're running low? The second piece of advice is please ask for help. Please, please, please ask for help. I know that being a pre-dental student and a pre-health student can be very competitive, right? In college, there's kind of this mentality that, you're going to make it on your own and that you're not going to ask other people for assistance. And it's just this very individualistic form of achievement. And I have to say, from my own personal experience, my biggest growth, especially academically, was when I started asking for help, when I reached out to my mentors, when I reached out to upperclassmen, when I started attending office hours, when I raised my hand and asked those questions that I would have been embarrassed to ask beforehand, when I was studying with my classmates and making sure that I was hearing things from a different perspective. I really had to set my pride aside and learn how to ask for help, because again, there's going to be all kinds of up and downs, and sometimes you're not going to be able to do it all on your own. At least that was the case for me. If you're anything like me, if you're anything like me, please ask for help along the way. And then my last piece of advice, I think I already mentioned it, but please just take your failures not as indicators of your character, But know that your response to your failures and your shortcomings is an indicator of your character. So just learn from your failures, learn from your mistakes. It's okay to fall down, as long as you get yourself back up too. And your failures aren't even necessarily failures. I think you've heard this before. They're just, you're finding a different way not to succeed. And that's just a part of a process, that is just growing. It's the growing pains of becoming a better version of yourself and ultimately a better dentist. So just know that, your failures are meant to make you stronger and make you better, and learn from them and reflect on them. So, and I guess, just take it seriously, but also have fun along the way. Like I said, this is going to be a long grind to get into this career, and to work in this career it can be exhausting. So just learn how to have fun along the way too. I wish I had some more fun back in the day when I made some sacrifices in undergrad. So I hope you enjoy your time as well. I think that's it. I think that's all I've got for you. You can find me on Instagram at Isaac, that's ISAAC 7 Tade, Tade. And then my email is going to be TADE0027 at umn.edu. And I'm sure that's going to be in the description below too. Again, thank you so much for having me, FutureDDS. This is a community of professionals, that future dental students. I was watching these videos when I was, a pre-dent as well. So being on the other side of it now is just really surreal, and I'm really thankful for this opportunity. So thank you, and I hope this advice helped you along your way.